We lose people all the time. It's just the nature of the business. What can you expect from a place full of nooks and crannies that people intentionally go to get lost? I usually don't worry when I haven't seen someone for a while, but when it's been days since someone has checked out, that's usually a sign that I need to intervene. I'm not doing this alone, thank God. No librarian is ever truly alone, right? I have help from observers and listeners on the shelves. Thanks to them, it usually doesn't take long to get the smell, if you know what I mean. However, today is one of the rare and unfortunate exceptions, when my research exceeds more than an hour, and an hour pays it. I've been searching and asking for about 6 hours, scouring the shelves and listening to the breathing alarm. The observers have their own quarters, so it's very much like playing hot and cold. Bad news. Someone says, and my mind shudders in my skull at his presence and his statement. They're over the bar. The monitor says, and I groan. Are you sure? My stomach still drops at the thought of it, even though I've been doing it for a very long time. Enough to remember every book on every shelf better than my child's face, but knowing that poor soul lost herself behind the bar. I grieve for them. The observer does not speak, but he generates a positive feeling. This means I have to go back to my office to get supplies. I thank them and ask them to send a message before I arrive. It's been a long time since I've had to go past the bar, which means it's been a long time since I've entered a broom closet. The helmet is dusty, it looks like it's almost from one of my old wetsuits. But it's not very heavy. There is a bright lamp mounted on the front just above the visor, but it is as much a hindrance as it is a help. While those outside the bar mostly know not to bother me, some of them get bored enough to try, and the lamp acts as a beacon. I don't blame them, that's what prisoners do. Find the weakest among them and test their mettle. I have a bag full of non-perishables, dyes, aspirin, and a compass, not like the kind I'm used to, but it would take too long to explain. Time is of the essence, so I'll let your imagination handle it from here. I carry the bag across my body, cinching a belt around my waist that would make a bat character with abandonment issues jealous. It contains dental floss, lighters, matches, and some other paraphernalia not found outside the library. The last thing he grabbed was the flamethrower. This is where I have to be very transparent with you. I'm not actually a librarian. I'm an assistant librarian. I know, it's just your luck, right? Don't worry, I'm pretty good at using this thing, and it does the job well, whatever task I might deem necessary at any given moment. But the head librarian doesn't really need much of anything to ward off what's left here. I don't know exactly where he is at this moment, and I don't want to know. If this were a real pickle I would recall it, but although it is a rare occasion, it is not unusual within 1,000 years. After all, no one comes here without the intention, whether conscious or subconscious, to get lost. It's the nature of this place. But you know that, right? That's why you're here, after all. It doesn't take long to find the bar, which is a coincidence. Sometimes it moved, but this time the observers and listeners kept up its rhythm to guide me. Yes, it's really dark. Yes, it's a literal bar. Hazard bar, but that's almost like a beacon for adventurers, right? I think the library knows that. He is greedy, but he is also very particular in taste. In some circles, that means I should congratulate you, and in others, I offer my sincerest condolences. I hear my name and ignore it as I crawl through the intersections of reflective strips. By the way, the bar doesn't move randomly. It really serves as a warning. Whether gatekeeping sections are currently under construction, under repair, or missing. I'm trying not to, but I think the last question has something to do with where the head librarian went. Don't worry about it, my name is not important. so ineffective that I forgot. I heard my name again as I reluctantly turned on the lamp. There wasn't much help, just enough light to ensure I didn't trip over anything, or disturb the shelves. A lot of people sleep here. I sent a warning shot from my flamethrower. Shows that I have more light than just my delicious head. The flash of fire sends things sliding. But most of those near the tape were never convicts by nature, so I'm not worried. There are more listeners and fewer observers following the tape, for obvious reasons. Fortunately, they say I don't have to go far. I look at the clicking sound shown to see the rocks rolling. Some are as big as my feet, and some are as small as the tip of my thumb. Smaller objects move more easily, but they all roll as if they were being pulled toward a central point. I don't even need the compass, but I look at it one more time before I put it back in the bag. Although I don't have to go that far, things are relative here. 10 steps could be 10,000. And so, even after a few moments of exploring, I feel a sharp pressure on my temple. I feel like my heart is being squeezed, and my vision is blurring. My fingers tremble when I manage to shake the aspirin into my mouth. I chew, ignoring the sound of my name, my real name. The only one I can hear. You'll hear your voice, too, if you stay here long enough. My vision cleared, which meant the darkness seemed more intense, and I cleared another warning arc from my flamethrower for good measure. I do this because I love the sound as much as I love it for the protection. I also appreciate the warmth. It gets cold here, but in a strange way, which shouldn't surprise you at this point. It's as cold as the first signs of spring appearing in the just melting early morning dew. I can smell and taste the sweat on my upper lip. And it's cold. And then I hear it. After a few or 1,000 steps. The sound of breathing I was listening to. The pace of the rocks quickens, and my head is turned down so that the helmet light keeps me from tripping or impeding their journey. A famous author once said, "All things serve the ray," and this is as true in this world as in others. Except that this beam, this lighthouse, is connected to our missing visitor. Now I can only hear rocks, mutterings, and the sound of breathing. The smell is very musty and thick. It is as if the air is filled with sweat and dust. It's like I'm sticking my head out the window during heavy rain. If I think hard enough about it, I'll drown soon. So, I don't. While rocks are almost the perfect narrative, and listeners support the evidence as well, you can never be completely sure. Only light can be sure. I take a match from the little box, light it to life, and then extinguish it. Small tendrils of smoke curl and dart until they follow the same flow as rocks. Excellent, we were not lost. After a few steps or 1,000 more steps, the rocks pile up at the bottom of the trail as breathing becomes more like a wheeze, like a desperate struggle to take in. And we found them. The poor thing, judging by her condition, was lost early. She'd probably been here most of the day. The book covers her face, devouring her head like a baby on an oversized lollipop. The pages flutter gently against her very white jaw. The papery quality of her skin, and the required muscle mass, showed how little time was on our side, not a moment to waste. She grabbed the book by the edges of the back and front covers. Most of her head was inside at this point, only her earlobes, hair, and the edge of her jaw sticking out from under the pages that she now gripped tightly. The whistle turns into a moan, which turns into a sigh. Now, I say, testing the book's effect on its victim. It's comfortable, too comfortable to be spread around like a leech. I need to treat it like a tick, making sure to get the head out. None of this is a pun intended, but it only happens after you've been surrounded by books and professionals for a long time. I draw one of the little things attached to my utility belt and pull the cork out. It smells like nothing to me, but I see the reaction right away. Our half-consumed explorer moves a little, mostly her fingers, and I hear a second, smaller moan beneath the moan of the book. I pour a small amount of the substance into the palm of my hand, then gently place it on the back of the book. She sobbed again, and so did the girl, full of sadness and hesitation. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, so I turned at my hips, fired the flamethrower, and deliberately sent out a long tail of flame. When this feeling subsided, I threw the weapon over my shoulder. I used the back of my knuckles to gently tap the cover of the book. It's time to go back now. My apologies. I say it and I mean it. The book and the girl moan again, more hollowly, and I can feel the seal, the bond, parting like a seam. I grab the book again, because these two people are stubborn, and they need to separate themselves. The color and lump return under her skin, and even though her eyes are open, they can't see anything. It will remain like this for a while. This is normal. You will recover. I pour the remaining contents of the bottle over the section of her straggly blonde hair. Tears fill empty eyes and drip down her face. Her mouth compresses into a thin white line and she frowns so hard that the flesh folds in multiple layers at the corners of her mouth. Great pain. Even after 1,000 years, I still can't help but feel sorry, so I pull her burned head under my chin and rub circles on her back. I'm sorry, honey. I know you've been told otherwise, but this place is a prison, and this isn't your story. Your book is still being written, and the person who made beautiful promises to you is a liar and jealous. One day, if the world was cruel, you might have a place here. But that's not today. So let's go have a cup of tea. I say to her, as I have said to many like her. I've gotten better at it over the years. I used to fight with them. Many times I would give in and keep them safe until the head librarian came back to talk to them. Finally she let out a weak, wheezing breath. I exploit the broken seam of her lips and pour tincture down her throat. I don't have to look anymore, I can just feel the specific melodies that make each hue different. It helps that the one I need usually sings a little louder as a courtesy, and will purr like a cat when I touch it with my fingers. She chokes a little, but her eyes are starting to clear. Good enough for now. The back of my neck experiences another sudden surge of goosebumps. We have overstayed our welcome. It's time to go. I put the book back on the shelf. I don't scold him, I just let his pain and frustration flow through me. I apologize, but there is no comfort I can offer. My words and sympathies are meaningless. I noticed the volume and was going to tell the head librarian that they might be able to calm him down and get him back to sleep. I popped the pendant around my neck, and we returned to my office. I put the girl on a nearby bench on a better day, and lit the kettle before heading to the broom cupboard to store the emergency kit. We'll be okay. People like her, and you, always are. This place was created to help wanderers and creative people. Those who can't wrap their heads around the world as it is, and can see the truth of the magic between the beats and breaks of the heart. And people like me, and the head librarian, when they choose to grace us with their presence, keep the place organized and open for you, and we're here to help guide you back on track if you've lost inspiration for your own story. It's the nature of the job, the library itself. What else can you expect from a place full of nooks and crannies that people choose to get lost in?